Hey, Amie.
Yeah, Juan.
Give me that beat.
It's Baseball Shangri-La with Amie Cuevas and Juan Ramirez.
What's up, party people? She is Amie Cuevas. I am Juan Ramirez. You are listening or watching Baseball Shangri-La. If you are listening to us on the audio portion of the show, please make sure you're subscribed to the podcast, rate us, write us a review, help spread the word about the show. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel, hit that notification button, give us a thumbs up, leave us comments. We love engaging with you. And most importantly, make sure you're following us on social media on X at BB Shangri-La, on Instagram, YouTube, and Bluesky at Baseball Shangri-La. Amie, ¿cómo estás?
Hi. New week, more baseball.
Yeah, let's we got a lot that we have to get into. We didn't record on Monday because Amie was at the Dodger game. Amie was a witness to a lot of the stuff that we're going to be talking about this week on tonight's show. So let's
Look
get
at my
right in.
look at my mini Vin. Isn't he cute?
Let's get right into it, Amie. Before we start talking some baseball, anything else you want to add?
No, I mean, I think most of like the comments corner, which just kind of covered what we talked about last week. I think some of them will blend into what we're going to be talking about, so we'll just kind of fold some of that in. But I don't know. Are you gonna dust off those windpipes?
All right, let's do this, everybody.
Hold on. Okay, go.
And a pleasant good evening to you wherever you may be. All right, Amie. Let's start off with updates before we get into what people really want to talk about, because there's a lot of updates, and you were there talking to Dave Roberts this weekend. What do you have for us on updates?
Well, so we really only got to talk to Dave Roberts on Saturday because there was no media scrum Sunday, and that could have been by design.
Why? So, did they ever give an explanation as to why there was no media scrum on Sunday?
No, I mean the assumption was probably because of all the second wave of changes that happened. So maybe not. It hadn't really been announced yet. So maybe not wanting to address it right before the Dodgers made a big announcement.
When did Andrew Friedman talk to the press? Was that on Saturday or
Yeah,
Sunday?
it was later, so it would have been after clubhouse hours, after Doc had spoken. There was actually an announcement made in the press box so that everybody could file down. And I was outside recording something for one of our media spots, and I didn't hear it. I came back in, everybody was gone, and my boss was like, I think Friedman's speaking, but it had already started. So
That was on Sunday or Saturday?
that was on Sunday.
Okay. All right. So, what updates do you have for us?
We have a ton. So there were a bunch of transactions, and some of these things we'll mention them, but we'll get into them more as the games kind of roll through. But it all started Tuesday. Roki Sasaki was put on the IL, which you called a potential injury coming. You were kind of referring to a position player, but lo and behold, you were right in one capacity. It was Roki Sasaki on the IL with right shoulder impingement. So JP Feyereisen was recalled. Roki had felt arm soreness coming off of his last start, so that's what led to the move. And as we know, he already had something kind of burgeoning down, in his arm, so it was kind of a matter of time. And then Wednesday is when the first shocker. What are you doing? Is your arm okay?
I'm marking my bingo card because who was the
Oh.
one that told you they were going to shut down Roki at some point?
Oh, David wants a taco. It's just an ambulance. It's not behind you. All right.
That's me dotting my bingo card.
You
Roki being
can dot
shut
it,
down.
but I told you that he came over here with a semi-injured arm, so it's not a shock.
All I'm saying is clearly someone in that organization listens to the show because I say something and then it happens. Look, Roland knows. Roland's the only guy who gives me credit for stuff that happens. Shouts out to Roland and the kids. So,
I mean, definitely shouts out to Roland and the kids, but I don't know how far we'd go with your prescience, but okay. So Are you done with your bingo card for now?
Done for
Get
now.
ready.
For
You
now.
can pull it out later.
By the way, when I do this, this is me marking my bingo card. I just
Oh,
want you to know
okay.
that.
All right. Got it.
Or it's me putting a bean on my loteria card. Let's do that.
Okay. Let's Loteria. Yes.
On
Yes.
my loteria card. Let's do
Okay.
this. All right.
All right. So Wednesday, we did find out that Austin Barnes got DFA'd. They selected the contract of Dalton Rushing. We'll get into way more of that later. We'll just announce it right now. And then as we start getting into the subsequent days, the Thursday, Justin Robleski was recalled. JP Fireeisen was optioned. So get ready for the whiplash that's about to happen. And then on the 16th, Ryan Lutos was recalled. Justin Robleski was optioned. Lutos debuted. And then we roll into Saturday. We activated Clayton Kershaw from the 60-day IL. We optioned Ryan Lutos to the Oklahoma City Comets. And then continuing into Saturday, they did transfer Blake Snell from the 15-day IL to the 60-day IL with that left shoulder inflammation. And then they did send Teo on a rehab assignment with the RC Quakes. So he played on Saturday. He was back at the stadium on Sunday. So Dave Roberts had said in his scrum on Saturday that he would give Teoscar the option if he wanted to, play again, get a couple more hits on Sunday. So it looks like he came back. And then we roll into Sunday and good gosh, they activated Tommy Edman. They did release Chris Taylor. So the second wave of, oh my goodness. And that leads into some of the other stuff. So they had signed free agent right-handed pitcher Lou Trevino to a minor league contract on the 11th. We saw him in the clubhouse on Sunday, and then lo and behold, later he was activated and he came in to pitch mid-game on Sunday. So when they selected his contract, they placed right-handed pitcher Kirby Yates on the IL, and he's on the IL with a right hamstring strain. So just 15 days for right now, but we know how that stuff goes. So as far as some stadium updates Saturday from Dave Roberts, he had just announced that Dalton Rushing would be catching. He would be Kershaw's battery mate, as we saw play out during that game. And he had caught one of Kershaw's rehab starts, so they had that familiarity. Kershaw was fine with it. It was a good experience for Dalton Rushing. And they were actually working on the scouting report together before the game. And questions were asked, so there were no limits that were going to be put on Kershaw. They were going to run him out like a normal pitcher, and that was at Clayton's request. So he wanted to be treated like everybody else because he'd gone on his rehab starts. And because Dalton would be calling the game, obviously Clayton had the option to veto, but it would be, just a regular run-of-the-mill game. And then Teoscar was taking 2 to 3 at-bats in Rancho on Saturday. Tommy was going to be brought back potentially on Sunday or Monday. We did see him on Sunday's game. But really the focus was to give Kike Hernandez and then Miguel Rojas more opportunities to play because Hae-Sung Kim had gotten a lot of opportunities lately. So they were giving those guys a little bit more over the weekend. So what we saw going into that Sunday, even though we didn't have that presser with Dave Roberts, was Lutos's locker was gone. We'd seen it on Saturday, but we also noticed that Chris Taylor's locker was gone. So that started kind of the hubbub before the actual announcement was made. So it was kind of scanning around the locker room, looking in the corner, and it was like, yeah, it's missing over there.
Do you have Monday's update as well?
No, because we were covering the Athletics and the Angels.
So do you not want to get into the move with Teoscar and Outman?
I mean, we can if you want to. Go for it.
Just because it's Tuesday, and that is Teoscar Hernandez was activated on Monday, and James Outman was optioned, which is no surprise. So in terms of all the updates, those are all the updates, right, Amie?
That's yeah.
All right, so let's get into the hot topic because honestly, I mean, it was a miserable week. I know they won 2 out of 3 against the Athletics, but it's been a miserable last 4 games. We are recording this on Tuesday before Game 2 of the game against the Serpientes.
Buckle up, buttercups, because I have a whole cup of positivity in the face of some of this stuff. I know me and you are probably not going to agree on half of this stuff. So
good, because I need it. I need it. You are the most positive person I know, and I need you to give me positivity because this 4-game stretch is absolutely brutal. But before we get into the actual baseball that it's played, let's talk about the Austin Barnes and the Chris Taylor DFAs. The Austin Barnes one, I started getting flashbacks to AJ Ellis, where I was
Team.
like,
I
"Are
said
we?"
that to somebody.
I was like, "Are we really going to do this?" Are we? I remember when people were losing their mind that AJ Ellis got released, and I'm just like, AJ Ellis at that point, I think was almost like Austin Barnes in
He
the
was he
terms
was on a he was on a he was on the
he
way
was on a
down. And
downward
and
trajectory.
because he was so close with Kershaw, that's kind of what kind of helped his career at the moment.
So when that happened, I know I was going around going, "Are you guys? Do you guys all have amnesia? Do you guys not see?" And like, he's not producing. I don't understand why you guys are getting so upset about the fact that AJ Ellis is getting released.
Well, and I think when this time around it happened, I was like, get ready for people to rewrite history because here we go.
Oh yeah, exactly. And I saw a lot of that this week,
and
Amy.
and that's not to say that you cannot remember and have those nostalgic moments with a player. But I think for me, where it comes down to, I like to see that. Don't get me wrong. It's just the vitriol we've seen since this season started and even into last year, aimed at specific players. And then the Dodgers do what people have been begging for. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, they're so brutal. I can't believe they did this. And it's like, what? What?
Yeah, I wouldn't call it revisionist history. What I would call it is hypocrisy. I really would call it hypocrisy.
But I
The
think they really believe it, though. So that's why I call it revisionist history. I think people are like, oh my God, I miss him so much already. Where, like, yeah.
I will say this, Amy. I am not surprised that they DFA'd Austin Barnes. What I was surprised about is the timing of when they did it. And what I mean by when they did it is May. Okay. The fact that they did it this early in the season to me is surprising because then it makes me ask, well, if you guys were going to do this in May, why did you guys, you know, did
Select his
they
option.
exactly select his option? Like, was it because Dalton Rushing played 37 games down in the minor leagues before they called him up? Now, at that point, they had been moving him around last year in the outfield, figuring him out.
Into
So,
this year, because they did it again at spring training, too.
so I don't know if 37 games is enough of a sample size to convince you that he can, especially when we heard Dave Roberts come out there and say that Dalton Rushing is going to be playing. He's going to be catching at least 2 times a week because they don't want Will Smith catching 3 games in a row. So I that to me is what's fascinating. Now, I will say this, and I know you're going to come in here with the positivity. Clearly, they know stuff about Dalton Rushing that we don't know. So they saw stuff. They obviously were confident. Look, I understand the move because offensively, Austin Barnes he wasn't giving you anything. And
And
what we
I heard he was ranked last for like pop rate of just trying to throw out at second base.
and that's really what he had going for him, really was just his ability to call a game, right? So I understand the move. I'm just surprised by the timing of this. And again, I will just say this in terms of like Austin Barnes, because he wasn't giving you any productivity offensively. What we have seen so far in a month and a half into this season is this lineup is very top heavy.
Mhm.
With the recent, introduction of of Kim into the 9 spot, you were starting to get maybe some production from the bottom of the lineup, but you still had Conforto struggling, so you were getting no production from the bottom of the lineup. So everything was dependent on the top of the lineup. That's the reason
Right.
why the Unicorns' RBI numbers are so low because there's nobody on base when the Unicorn goes up to the plate.
Right. I'm going to back up a second though, because you hop forward, and let me address something that you said as far as like just being surprised. I think timing wise, I was more surprised that they didn't wait till after Kershaw came back. But as far as like why they brought him up with being it in May, they did address a lot of that. And part of it really, it didn't come down to Austin Barnes' lack of production. It came down to how productive Dalton was. So whether it was the 36, 37 games we saw him in so far this season, he has hit the ceiling on what he can do. They were already talking about it in spring training. He was doing game planning with the coaches, with the pitchers, like he was doing extensive stuff, and he has hit the limit of what he can do down where he was in the minors. So the only thing really was to bring him up, and he's been blocked for a while. We've been hearing about Fiducia rushing for a while. We heard about Cartaya, before that happened, and then the trade to the Twins, but his name has been floated around for a while. He's finally ready to come up, and he is going to be that guy who's going to be breaking Will Smith. So it is unfortunate that they did select to the option on Barnes, but at the same time, it's not what it's not as focused on Barnes as people probably think it is. It's more about the development of Dalton rushing, and it was time.
Everything. So then we find out Sunday, they've DFA'd Chris Taylor, and everything that I just said about Austin Barnes apply it to Chris Taylor. I'm not.
And these were the longest tenured players. Austin Barnes was the longest tenured one, and then now that torch gets passed to Chris Taylor. He has it for 4 days, and now it has passed to Max Muncy, because Kike, while he's been there for a while, he left and came back. So Muncy is the guy who's been there the longest since he signed that minor league contract in 2017 and then came up in 2018.
Everything I said about Austin Barnes can be applied to Chris Taylor. I was expecting they would make a decision on DFAing him this year. Again, I just did not expect that it would be in May, especially since Dave Vassay was reporting that Chris Taylor was wearing a heavy brace on his knee. I really thought the groundwork was being laid for him to go on the IL. And I really thought that would be the move. And in a sense, I kind of wonder also, and that's why I don't believe anybody asked Friedman this. Check me if you are correct. Why an IL stint was not given for Chris Taylor. Now, look.
If it didn't warrant it, though, like, you're not gonna. I know you love the Phantom IL conspiracy theory, but I mean, if he wasn't full on injured, or even if he was, like, if he comes back and it takes a while to ramp him up, is that worthwhile? Or you can release him. Yeah, they're gonna pay him either way. Are you doing the less heartless thing?
I'm going to save the IL portion to another when we talk about the Angels series. But I will say this about Chris Taylor. I think that the issue at hand, and this is roster construction, you already had too many players that did the exact same thing that Chris Taylor does. So Chris Taylor, I don't think.
And he's a righty, which is the comment that I saw the most, is like, why would they keep Conforto, but they wouldn't get rid of Chris Taylor? And it's like, well, Conforto hits left-handed. Like, he has that advantage, and maybe they aren't both hitting right now, but Chris Taylor's a righty.
Yeah, I think the issue at hand is what Kike Hernandez does is what Chris Taylor is supposed to do. But Kike is producing. Kike plays multiple positions, which is what Chris Taylor's supposed to do.
He plays them well.
And I will say this, it really does feel like, to me, especially going into this year, Chris Taylor really wasn't given much of an opportunity to show whether he can produce or not. I believe the final number was maybe 32 plate appearances, or do you have those figures there?
I do. Hold, please. 35 at bats, 7 hits, no home runs. He was batting 200 when he left, and similar for Barnes. 42 at bats, 9 hits, no home runs, 214 batting average.
And I know if you hear that stuff, they'll go, Juan, there's a reason why he had limited opportunities. He wasn't producing. But I do feel, and this again is probably because of the repetition, because you have so many players who could do what he does, and that's why he wasn't given the opportunities. But again, we saw the hypocrisy. How many people do we hear from fans that criticize Chris Taylor and how horrible he is? I will say this. Austin Barnes made his contributions to this team. Austin Barnes, he won 2 World Series, but I just want to remind everybody, I believe, and check me, I think you have this stat, Amy, so call me out if I'm wrong. I don't believe that Austin Barnes caught even one inning in the World Series last year. I believe Will Smith caught every inning of the World
I
Series.
don't know that one off the
All
top
right.
of my head. I mean, I have his page up, so they should have his postseason stats. To me, it also comes down to like this. This is hard. It's many things that can be true at once. Baseball is a business. This is why like it's almost like you don't want to get attached to a player too much because this is the stuff that happens. They're balancing the team's goals versus the fans' opinions, and now we're rewriting history or hypocrisy. If you we're talking about it that way. I'd have to look it up later. I didn't have that ready because I didn't know we were going to talk about it. So, well, if not none, it was minimal. So, regardless, you
So,
know.
look, he won 2 World Series. He did have, at least offensively, one good season during his time with the Dodgers back when they had Yasmani Grandal, and the argument was Austin Barnes should be playing more than Yasmani Grandal. For me, I think Chris Taylor probably is going to have a more lasting memory as a Dodger, and it's all because of that home run. I was at that game with my daughter, the wild card game against the Cardenales of San Luis, when Chris Taylor hit that home run, and I have
Oh, see, and I was thinking of that catch. Was it during when we were
it
playing the
was
Brewers?
Milwaukee. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was in
I see, and I
2018.
think of him with the catch.
To me, the home run. To me, and the thing is I don't have a memory like that of Austin Barnes. I guess the closest thing that you could have the memory for me for Austin Barnes is that he was the reason why Blake Snell got removed from that game when the Dodgers won the World Series in 2020.
Oh, see, and I think of him catching the last out. But what remind me of the Blake Trinan thing?
Austin Barnes was the only person that could hit Blake Snell. So
Oh yes, 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 yes. Yeah.
because of that hit, they pulled Blake Snell, and then the
Right.
rest is history. Because a lot of people feel you leave Blake Snell in that game, the Dodgers don't score, they don't win the World Series, right?
Right. Right.
So
Sorry, you said Blake, and my brain automatically went to Trinan.
so I feel like I feel like Chris Taylor definitely has a more what's the word I'm looking for? A more not outlandish, but there is definitely more sparkle to his when they play his clips of his thank you, Chris Taylor, for coming. Um, and look, now you're going to have an opportunity. Will Chris Taylor and Austin Barnes get picked up? I know immediately already there were calls that if you were a team in the National League West or you're a team in the National League that's going to see the Dodgers, why wouldn't you pick up Austin Barnes or why wouldn't you pick up Chris Taylor just to try to get intel
Mhm.
about the Dodgers and
And
how
Chris
they
Taylor's
do
already
things?
got a contract that's like being. I
Well,
mean,
and so does Austin Barnes. So I
yeah.
mean,
Well, I
those
mean,
teams.
Austin Barnes is a little bit less. I think he had 3.5 million on his option versus the 16 million, I believe, that was on Taylor's. So
Yeah, and any team that picks him up is only paying the veteran. I mean, the minimum.
the
The
minimum,
minimum.
exactly. Just like when we got Pools a couple years
Yeah.
ago.
So
It's honestly the Friedman presser. I don't if people saw it, like the highlights were obviously like this has been a very emotional week for all of us. They both of them have been in the middle of some huge moments for this org. Both guys left an indelible mark on our culture and where it's at. Ultimately, it was more about like rushing up, like we talked about. But Friedman did say like no decision is ever made in a vacuum. It's within the context of our roster and where we're at. On one hand, there's the element of the guys who have been here and been a big part of what we've done. And on the other is looking ahead to who's going to be a part of the next wave. It's far from science, it's art, it's difficult. And the end for people who have been such significant contributors, it's never going to feel good. And it's been tough for a lot of us this week.
yeah. Do you have anything else you want to say about those two before we talk about this last week of baseball for the Doyers?
No, I mean, just they did play their part and grateful for that. And, I wish them well going forward.
It's fascinating to me that Andrew Friedman is out there talking about these two DFA moves that they made because honestly, I don't think offense has been their problem. I think what's been their problem, and we talked about this at the beginning of the season, what could be the biggest thing to derailing the Dodgers season, and that's injuries. And the way that this starting rotation is right now, I think Bill Plunkett had put it out there. I think the number in terms of dollars of the starting rotation that's not out there. But right now, you don't have Glass now, you don't have Blake Snell. From the beginning, we went from we have so many pitchers. We have so many pitchers, and now
And this is
really
why even on the opposite end, like I don't get super disappointed on the negative stuff. I don't get overly excited on this stuff because nothing is promised in this game.
And this is why I kept saying at the beginning of the season that for everybody that keeps acting like this is a wrap, that the Dodgers are going to win the World Series again, or that the Dodgers are going to win 120 games, I'm just like, you guys obviously have not been paying attention to the
I
last
hope
few
you guys
years.
aren't placing bets.
Yeah.
I still think they're gonna go far, but it like these are all things that factor in. Pitching is obviously the thing that is hurting this team, but sometimes even when they do have like pitching that will at least carry them through, the offense doesn't always come through in some of those games. And that's just going to happen. Like that literally is baseball. This is where you may have checkbook baseball, you may have like the little guy that's playing against in like a David and Goliath situation, but that's where like you see the angel sweep. I know we're going to get to that, but like it's not impossible. And the fact that the Dodgers are playing with a bullseye on their back, like teams are going to play up to them no matter what.
It's asking a lot. As vaunted as this offense is, it is asking a lot for your offense to have to outslug the other team every single game.
When they're getting 1 to 3 runs in the first inning alone, almost every game, like,
and that's because of starting pitching, Amie. That is because
I don't disagree.
Like for me, this whole week can be described in the fact that they didn't get a quality start out of any of their starting pitching. Now, after they lost that first game against the A's and they got clobbered, and I know everybody sits there, Juan, I know we don't see a lot of position players pitch. I was like, I saw Miguel Rojas pitch again. That to me seems way too many times that we're seeing Miguel Rojas pitch.
But we're also seeing the schedule stacked the way that it is right now. We've been playing a lot of the teams that it's going to be lopsided games like that. The games that you hate, that it's going to be basically like batting practice in some of those. We're not, like you said, we haven't seen the Padres or the Giants where those games are probably, I mean, hopefully going to be closer games in those respects. When you're playing the Marlins, the Athletics, the Angels, even where we're seeing what their seasons look like up to this point. Now they're hitting the Dodgers when the Dodgers are kind of at their lowest, at least so far this year. That doesn't mean that they're going to stay there. I think, I mean, you can focus on that. I think it's a factor. I think it's definitely something that should be discussed. But beyond that, I also feel like, all right, cool. But we know that. So like, what is going well? What do we have to, to focus on?
Well, I mean, that's why that's going to be your job, because you are the princess of positivity, because I don't
princess.
Excuse me, la reina de positivity. I look, we saw, like I said, it's hard to outslug a team every game. Mm-hmm. They did that after they bounced back after that opening series loss to the A's. They bounced back the next 2 games, scoring a lot of runs.
Well, and Jacob Wilson in that first game on Tuesday, like, credit to him. That guy, like, I picked him up that night. I didn't get any points in fantasy.
Oh, this is about your fantasy league? I'm
just saying, like, it would have been nice to have him beforehand when he hit two run home runs in the game. Like, that kid had a 5-run night. Well, technically, I mean, he got on base 5 times, but 1 was on an error. But still, like, a bit in between that, you've got, everybody else hitting. Just they were hitting. And a lot of these, like, if you go back and you look at the pitch counts, they're high pitch counts. We're not looking at like standard like balls and strikes, like, oh, they got three balls, 2 strikes, and then they hit. Like, we're seeing upwards sometimes of like 9 and 10 pitches in an at bat.
Well, I mean, there was that crazy at bat. I think it was from Saturday. The one
Moreno. No, I think it was yesterday.
Was it yesterday? The 16th.
That was against Knack. Mm-hmm.
Look, I mean, everything was like great. They bounce back. They win the next 2 games against the A's. They win the series. They do what they're supposed to do. That Angel series, I think there's just
Well,
no
wait.
one.
There's not just negativity on the A series, and then we move on. Like, there's other things that were going on too. Like Freddie's chasing a batting title right now. After Tuesday, he's now eligible for some of that stuff. Conforto, for all the everybody's worried about him. Tuesday, he hit 3 doubles in that game, and all three on 2-strike counts. So like there's a lot of positive things I think to look if you're looking for them. Pages right now is ranked first in defensive runs saved. We did find out like for Freddie, that surgically repaired ankle of his, it takes 90 minutes of treatment for him to even get on the field every day. And that guy's playing through it like a champ. Because as we found out, a lot of these guys, the bone bruise that Will Smith had from last season, everything that everybody's going through, this stuff doesn't heal right away. And they're still playing through it. When we get to Tommy Edman, like he played in center field, then they put him in the infield, which is going to play into the game from last night. But they want to give him a rest because of his ankle. So there's a lot more stuff going on, but I think there's still a lot of things that we can focus on that are positive for this team. I think the only other one I want to call out, because Dalton made his debut on Thursday against the A's. So did you get to see that game? Or
I did see that game, and
batting 500?
He got 2 base hits that game.
Yeah, the first 11 pitches, he only swung twice. So like even the patience at the plate like is amazing. So if he continues to progress this way, it makes sense why they wanted to bring him up. There was also an instance on Wednesday where it was Mookie and I don't know if anybody who was watching the game, but Mookie and Max Muncy ended up there was a play. It was a 6-5 at 4. So you saw basically like Mookie kind of catch the ball. Muncy ran for second. Mookie gets the ball to Muncy, which is not your traditional play at second base, the third baseman running all the way over. They were saying on the broadcast on Thursday that wasn't practiced. But because it was so successful, they actually went in and they practiced it before Thursday's game. So that's going to be another part of their like fielding, readiness that they're going to be doing. So just some interesting stuff that came out of that. Like it is a bummer about, Austin Barnes, but getting to see Dalton Rushing make his debut, like some of that stuff, it's pretty awesome. I feel like Will Smith just debuted a couple of years ago and it was 2019. Like we're already like 6 years removed from that. It feels like he's only been up for a couple of years.
Give me some more positivity. What else do you got?
Oh, so are you? I'm assuming you had nothing left for the A's series.
I don't have anything positive.
How do you watch base? You have nothing positive about any of this stuff. Why do you watch baseball?
I watch baseball because I like baseball, but I feel
only when they're winning.
No, because I watched all the games because they didn't win a game against the Angels.
But you couldn't find anything positive even amidst.
No. To me,
definitely fan differently.
What happened against the Angels was embarrassing. It really, I have never seen this group play as bad as they played against the Angels this weekend. And so that's why you soak up, give us the positivity, because I don't see a silver lining like you do. As a matter of fact, I am not panicking. I am just preparing everyone. The Dodgers.
Are you just starting the little pre-body clench where you're like, ugh?
No, I'm preparing myself, and I hope I'm wrong, and I'm going to be pleasantly surprised. But they have a absolutely brutal stretch coming up after that. Actually starts with the Serpientes series, where every series they're going to be playing either a good team or a very good team. And for me, what's going on with this pitching staff right now is an act of God. This is, and some people may sit there and say, well, Juan, this could have been predicted, because the greatest indicator of future injury is past injury. And I get that. But when you see Andrew Friedman, and you clearly see someone that I feel is like, I don't know how else to fix this. And we'll get into it more. We get it because to me, the starting pitching is extremely problematic for me in this stretch.
100%. And I'm not trying to make light of it. I think that's like kind of a misunderstanding when it comes to like I'll just say how my friend group watches baseball, because I think people who, or at least this is the sense that I get when people are like, "Oh, well, you clearly don't understand baseball if all you can do is find the positive." And it's like, no, it's not. I think it's what we all choose to focus on. I don't want to say I'm concerned about pitching, because there's nothing I can do about it. I understand what's happening. It is unfortunate. You've got Dave Roberts and both Andrew Friedman saying, we were in the same situation last year. We were able to kind of work through it. This year's a lot different. It's a lot harder to work through with what they have. That's frustrating. But at the end of the day, I think when I'm watching this, because this is my source of happiness, there's not anything that I can do. And I'm trusting these guys. Like you said, these guys have more information than we do. If they can't do anything with it right now, I know that they're doing the best that they can, because they're not sitting in those strategy meetings or planning meetings or whatever. And they're like, well, how can we F this game up today? They're still going to be trying to put as best of a quality product on the field as they can. So that's where, like, finding some of those moments, like on Friday, like, it didn't turn out the way that we wanted to, but like, even just getting to see like Andy Pajes, he made, like, there was a fly out to him and he had a cannon like throw into the infield. And I was like, oh man, that was so Puig like just kind of seeing some of those moments. Ryan Lutos made his debut. Not great. He's back down in the minors, but like, all right, we've got another arm at least if we need to refresh this pen. Saturday, Snell was out there playing toss. I think he was out there, again recently, maybe yesterday or today. He's out there at least moving, which is better than when he couldn't pick up a ball. So progress is being made. They're not sidelining these guys for the end of the season. We're going to hopefully see them at one point, but it's not going to be right now. So they're going to have to find a really big Band-Aid to slap on this just to get them through. And it might look ugly for a stretch, but it's not anything we haven't seen in previous seasons. They're going to go through a stretch where they don't do so hot, or they have some of their star people that bring that cohesion, like when Justin Turner was out. When they're missing, things like that impact the clubhouse. But these guys are going to play their heart out. So, I mean, we got to see Kershaw pitch on Saturday. I mean, that's what everybody's been dying to see, especially the diehard Crenshaw fans.
Well, yeah. Look, everything you said is fair and no lies detected, in the sense that this
Thanks.
is what happened last year. I will point out, I think there's a big difference between last year and this year. And for me, and that difference is something that usually I don't think front offices factor into. Because it's really something hard to calculate, even for the math nerds, and that is regression. No one ever factors in that a player is going to regress. Everybody assumes that when you're doing the math, they're going to do what's on the back of their baseball card every year.
I'm sure the front offices are planning that. I think the fan bases and the armchair managers don't necessarily factor that in.
That's why I feel like the starting pitching is problematic, because what I'm afraid of is that you have regression with Landon Knack. Landon Knack does not look like the same Landon Knack from last year. Last year, you could count on Landon Knack coming in and giving you those spot starts and, keeping you in the game. This year, Landon Knack, I think, has maybe had one good start. The rest of the time we've seen him there, he has gotten hit, and he has gotten hit hard. And that's why, to me, with this stretch that's coming up, Amie, and I see Andrew Friedman, you're running out of bodies that you can throw out there.
But they're aware of that too, though. They're agreeing with you. Dave Roberts and Andrew Friedman are both like, yeah, this is not like last year. Like, this is very, very different. I mean, he even said, there was an Athletic article, and I was just reading this. I saved it to maybe not put some balm on the wound. I don't think it's going to do anything in that respect. But he said, I say this a lot, and I think anyone who doesn't say it is not being honest. There's a lot we don't know about injury stuff, and I think it's important not to pretend like we have all the answers. There's a lot to it that's really challenging, and we're hoping to continue to grow and learn from experiences just to try to make the smartest, best move we can, knowing we're going to make mistakes. They can only do so much with these guys. You can't just like, all right, let me wave my magic wand and your arm is better. They can't rush Snell. They can't rush Glasnow. All they can do is hope that they're giving them the best possible opportunity to heal and come back. But you'd want them to bring Bobby Miller up. But to your point, he hasn't fully like made it all the way to where we, do you trust him to pitch up here right now with the way that things already are? Or do you just bring him up because he's got a heartbeat at this point and we need pitching? And that might be the case, and that might be what we see. We might win some of these games because they're scrappy. We might lose some of these games. At the end of the day, there's not a lot anybody can do about it.
That's how bad things are, Amy. That is how bad things are for the Dodgers right now.
You mean baseball?
It's
baseball.
Everything that you just said right now. They're running this bullpen into the ground. They are throwing 2 bullpen games a week. They would much rather do that than bring up Bobby Miller. Now, what does that say about Bobby Miller?
We might still see Bobby Miller, but I guess my point is your demeanor versus my demeanor is just how we fan differently, because there's nothing any of us or the front office can do. You either enjoy what we do have, and that might be more losing games. You either enjoy it and find the good spots, and you enjoy the fact that we have this beautiful game, or you devolve into a cyclone of panic, and you can do that. But I don't know if it's going to make you enjoy the games anymore.
But this is not panic. Like, this is not, I understand why, but what I am describing here is I love baseball. I don't like watching bad baseball. And what we've seen in these last 4 games especially is, in my opinion, really bad baseball. Now, let's give some defense to Tony Gonsolin, okay? Because he had his finger exploded in that first inning.
Oh my God, he picked off skin, and he accidentally picked off good skin. We saw the pause in the first inning, and then you heard some rustlings around the press box of like, oh my God, there's blood on his pants. It was just you saw him wipe it off, and it was like, is it a blister? Is it a fingernail? What happened? And you saw him before the game. He was like kind of picking at it with his teeth, and it was like, oh God, please don't do that.
That was some Final Destination stuff that we were seeing.
Get some nail clippers, talk to the trainer, have a manicurist come out, but whatever you're doing, please stop with your teeth.
So at least, you could say, all right, that again, what are you going to do there? That's an injury, right? You can't prevent injuries, but that clearly impacted how he pitched in that game, because he couldn't throw his best pitch. He couldn't grip the ball because
is blood considered like sticky stuff?
Exactly. Like he had to rely on 2 pitches, and those 2 pitches were meatballs. And then here's the thing, when everybody's talking about these injured players, well, when they come back, the Dodgers will be fine. Let me introduce you guys to Clayton Kershaw. Now, I know people will say
Walker Buehler last year, Bobby Miller, but I guess to me this is the nature of the game. You're not going to change that. Like, we're going through the tough times that other teams go through at different times during the season. Maybe it just hurts more because we're more spoiled or we're entitled, but this is literally what happens every season to ball clubs. So I guess that's where I'm just like, what are you going to do about it?
Well, exactly. You're going to keep watching, but at the same time,
you don't have to watch. I mean, that is also an option.
And I'm sure there's a lot of Dodger fans who will stop watching. You were at
prerogative.
You were at the game on Monday. Was that game sold out? Because I had friends that were at that game, and they were texting me saying they saw a lot of empty seats.
Oh yeah,
for a Vin Scully bobblehead game.
Yeah, let me see. Now, I think we can grab what the there is a box number. Hold on.
Well, maybe Vin Scully bobblehead is just not as popular as a Dave Roberts bobblehead or a Shohei bobblehead.
It was 41,372, so probably one of the lower attended nights.
Or maybe there are fans that witnessed the embarrassment against the Angels this past weekend and didn't want to go.
Or you have just either people being priced out, or we're getting to the point, and I heard it around the stadium, and this is no shade at anybody, so calm down, but some people don't know who he is. And that's sad, but the people who did know who he is were there if they could be there.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, going back, I think it was unrealistic to expect that Kershaw was going to come in and be the Kershaw that we saw 10 years ago. I don't think that was realistic. But the
That's what I said
different
last week. Not on you, but like I hope nobody's expecting that because we're not going to see that and he's healing. He's a healing Kershaw at this point. So like he's not going to be top of his game.
right, but the thing that sucks, Amie, is they need him right now, not to be the Kershaw of 10 years, but to just be the Kershaw that he was last year before he got hurt.
Don't you think he knows that?
Look, I'm not putting this on Kershaw. What
Yeah,
I'm
but
saying
like
is
any
this
of
is the
them.
situation that the organization is in, that outside of Yamamoto, there isn't anybody in the starting rotation that they can truly depend on because the performances are so inconsistent. Dustin May one day will give you
Also,
six and a third of innings, and you're like, oh, great. Maybe he figured something out. And then Dustin May will look like what he looked like on Friday night against the Angels, where a lot of that was inflicted upon himself. With
100%.
bases on ball, there were too many walks in that series given up by the Dodgers pitchers, and the Angels, who have one of the worst offenses in all of Major League Baseball,
But
made them pay.
let's be accurate though. Dustin May only walked 2 people. He struck out 8. So in that appearance, while it may have been painful to watch, and let's 4 runs did come in, 4 earned runs, but he only walked 2. And to me, my focus is on, holy crap, he struck out 8. Even in he was struggling in that appearance, he still struck out 8. That's how I watch baseball. That's for me, that's the difference. And like Kershaw, May, Gonsolin, they're all coming back from the IL in one way or another. We already saw it. Like you had your test case with Bobby Miller and with Walker Buehler last year. So anybody who's unfamiliar with what happens when a pitcher comes back, there are going to be good starts. Walker Buehler had a couple good ones, but it was usually followed by regression, and then he'd figure something. Oh, I need to step a little bit closer on, or further down on the mound. All right, I found this. The problem is they pitch once a week, once every 6 days. You only get to simulate that in a real game in those instances. I can do all I want in a bullpen, but it's not going to be the same as throwing against hitters who, by the way, are doing their scouting as well, watching all the tape that they can because it's the Dodgers. They're going to do it normally, but it's the Dodgers. Anybody wants to show up this team, and they're going to take advantage of any tiny little, weakness that the team has. And unfortunately, right now, that's where they're at because they're all trying to find their footing. Kershaw included with his, toe surgery, where he's still trying to figure out his delivery because of that push off on that injured toe. So it's going to be like this for a while. So I would just try to find the positives. Shohei hit his 16th home run on Sunday. I mean, Lou Trevino, he got called up and he debuted that day. So, I mean, there's still little bits of brightness in here, little things that you can find in the games. But it might be a little rocky for a while. At least we're not the Rockies.
Okay, if that's the state, look, I had to wear it this weekend.
By who?
Okay?
By who?
Every Angel fan in the world came after me this weekend.
I see. This is what I don't understand about baseball. Why'd you have to wear it? Don't wear it.
So
just don't wear it.
because people know I'm a Dodger fan. So Sunday night, my daughter has her softball banquet. All right. One of the coaches
just
is
congratulate them. Hey, good job. Great series.
One of the coaches is giving a speech out there, and he's talking about the Dodgers, and he mentions that the Angels swept the Dodgers. So all the Angel fan parents that were in that banquet all start looking at me and going, hey, what happened, Juan? What happened?
I don't know. I wasn't on the field. I wasn't playing. Congratulations. Your guys' team played great.
So I had 2 options. Just smile and take it, or option number 2. What option do you think I chose, Amie?
The dumb option.
I chose option number 2.
No, this is why we fan differently, because why would you do this to yourself?
So I stood up in a banquet full of parents and the softball parents.
By the way, this is a choice that you made.
And my poor daughter wanted the earth to swallow her whole as I stood up.
Why did you do it?
Because I was standing up for my team, because I wasn't going to take this abuse. I was not going to take this.
Okay.
So as all of them are sitting there saying to me, what happened? I proceeded to tell all of them, hey, guys, Let me know when your guys' parade is. I would love to attend because we had a parade in October when we won the World Series. You guys were welcome to come to that parade. So I want to go to your guys' parade because you guys beat the Dodgers this weekend. That's worthy of a parade, right? So I had to take a lot of heat for the Angels, a last place team
You chose
with
to.
a
'Cause
last place team with the worst offense in Major League Baseball, and they made the Dodgers look really, really bad.
Well, this is
Really,
where
really bad.
we're never going to agree on this, and you and I will. I love you. You're my friend. We will never agree because don't do it. Just don't like. I'm not going to wear it. I'm going to sit there and I will support my team and be like, dude, my team tried hard, but like your team played really well. Somebody reached out and they were like, they sent me a GIF and they were like with the sweep or whatever on there. And I was just like, dude, your team played really well. Like, congratulations. Like, you should be happy. And they were like, dang, I hate talking, like smack talking with you. And it's like, I don't like smack talking. I'm going to
You don't
congratulate
engage. You don't engage.
But like, why would if I love baseball, why would I not like, good job. You guys did it. You guys hit really well. You guys figured out where our weaknesses were. It doesn't mean I hate my team or I'm not standing up for them. Like, I know my team's going through it. I'm not going to knock them down and I'm not going to like smack talk the other side. Like, it is what it is.
It was an absolutely
Did you
rough
feel
weekend.
better after doing that? Wearing
Actually,
it, as
I
you
did
say?
because I got a lot of laughs. I killed in that room with my comebacks.
Okay.
All the
Your
Angel fans,
stand up that you
yeah,
get your career that you get paid
all
for.
the Angel fans just shut up. They didn't have a comeback for me. So yeah, I loved it. I owned it. My wife was ready to kill me, as she grabbed
So
me
that
and pulled
was
me
worth it.
and pulled me down and say, "You're embarrassing me." But I went out there and I ripped. So for everyone out there who thinks I'm a Dodger hater and all I do is just bash on the Dodgers, just know that in public I stand up for my team.
You
Just
just
want
talk shit behind their back.
I just tell people I don't talk shit behind your back. What are you talking about? I say it to your face.
I'm kidding with you. To me, like, this is where we can change how we engage with baseball. There's always room for improvement. And if you don't like having to feel like you have to stand up and wear it, change how you engage. You be
I
the change,
wish
Juan. Be the change.
I wish I could be like you. I really can. And for the most part, I think there are times where I just sit there and I shrug it off. But there is something about losing to the Anaheim Angels
Why
that
do you let it get to
really,
you?
really gets into my because I care. As
But
my
but
daughter,
I but I care too. Like, we care differently, but like, if
like you
you
said, we
don't like
fan
that,
differently. This
we
is
do
why
fan differently.
this is how this show works, Amy. You fan the way you fan, and I fan the way. So
But
for
you sound like you don't like it because you're like, I had to wear it. Like, I'm
yeah, because
sorry.
I don't like where. I mean, it's like when
But
Giant fan comes after me when I go up to Clovis, and I gotta hear it from Giant
that's
fan.
where you're just like, hi. You
Uh,
just like go on with your day.
like I said,
I'll teach you my ways, little Padawan. It's fine.
for the most part, and for you guys watching or listening, let us. Are you a fan like Amy? Are you a logical, reasonable person and don't
I
let these
just
things phase
I
you?
just want to enjoy baseball. Like,
Or
and
are
I
you like me and embarrass your family in public and they never want to be seen with you ever again?
oh my god. Poor. Oh my god.
Exactly.
I mean, sometimes I worry for you because I feel like you don't always enjoy it and it gets to you, and that's the part that like makes my heart a little bit sad for you. But if this is what you feed off of, then you know what, you do you. Like,
Look, I enjoy it. I watch it. I'm able to accept, when they lose. I really am. It is just frustrating to watch because what we were discussing right now, you're asking a lot from your offense to have to outslug teams, right? And
mhm.
then let's look at Dustin May's numbers. All right. So 4 runs doesn't seem like it's a lot. But that particular day, the offense could only muster 2 runs, right? So it's like the offense when you have you're not going to have every aspect of your game working in one particular game.
Well, and
The
I think that was
idea,
the game we hit into like 5 double
yes,
plays. So like,
exactly.
you had movement on the bases, you had the beginnings of small ball, and then it was just like not hit hard enough or hit right at a player, and it's like 5 double plays. That's a lot. Like, that's a lot of inning ending almost, or at least getting to that point.
I,
Like,
I Absolutely. So again, you're not going to have all aspects of your game working every single game. You want the majority of them working. So when your starting pitching is very shaky ground, your bullpen as a result is now on shaky ground. A part of that. The other thing that's not helping, Amy, is the defense. I know
Yeah.
you gave great, what Andy Bacchus is doing, but and I
And
get that.
to your like just to like balance things out, the Dodgers are averaging 6.5 runs per game at home. It didn't look like that this weekend, but that is the average that they're working with. So while this is not a great sample size of 3 games, the overall is these guys are still producing. They're still, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they're still at the top of the NL West. I mean, the Padres, if they haven't caught up and overcome them or overtaken them, they're getting close. But with all of these deficits, they're still winning.
And shouts out to the Marineros. Let's thank the Seattle Mariners for doing a job on the show pods, because if the Marineros hadn't have done that, the show pods would have taken over
Yeah,
first
they're a
place.
game back right now. So, I mean, for all intents and purposes, even with the way that they're playing, I think only the Detroit has the best record in the league, but we're still tied for second or thrice three. It's a three-way with the Cubs, the Phillies, and us at 29 games.
Yeah, for me, I'm not even worried about that right now. I just wanted them to survive this next
No, I'm just
stretch
saying to
that's
give
coming up.
bigger picture. They're still doing okay. It's not like we're babysitting the bottom with the Rockies, who have won. They're not even in double-digit wins yet. It's not that bad yet. It's not great, but they're still managing. So carry
It,
on, carry
it,
on.
it's just it's
The
tough.
defense.
I keep the defense, and then because there were games where they ended up giving up 3 runs in the first inning, where if the defense would have been solid, it would have only been one, right? And that ends up being the difference in a game, right? When you
Well, and
end
that
up
was, I mean, we weren't prepared to talk. I wasn't prepared to talk about yesterday's game because we were just covering the other ones. But that is something that recently happened. But some of the stuff is going to come down to guys moving around, still figuring out the cohesion. You've got both Edmund and Teoscar coming back from injuries. You've got Hae-Sung Kim, who is markedly better in the infield, but they need to trot him out to the outfield to get him more reps, to get him better out there. Things are going to happen in those cases. Like, stuff's it's not ideal. Nobody wants to see it happen, but not everybody's batting 1,000. Your defense isn't always going to be 100%. Now, obviously, you don't want that to all happen at the same time, but if they work this out right now and they can figure it out, we're not even going to be talking about this in like July and August. It's going to be like the revisionist history with Barnes and Taylor. Everybody's going to be like, I knew they were going to win X amount of games. Of course, we're going to go do this. So, like, to me, this is just a blip on the radar
absolutely,
until it becomes a pattern.
and to be clear, what I am talking about is what's going on now. I don't, we'll talk about August when it gets to August, but what
Right.
we are watching right now,
And I don't mean August in that way. I mean, by the time we get to August, nobody's going to be even thinking about this stuff. Like, I'm not trying to
unless
fast
like you
forward it.
unless like you said, the season takes a real left turn right now.
And if it does, what is anybody going to do? Are
Uh,
you going to deny that these guys aren't still leaving their heart and soul out on the field? Because I
well,
would never accuse them of that.
you know what's interesting to me is going back to the Chris Taylor thing. I wonder. Part of me understands why they didn't put him on the IL and just released him, because if that's what they were going to do for him anyways, if that was the plan, you might as well just rip off the Band-Aid. But I am concerned about the lack of depth in the outfield with this team, because I know Conforto is showing signs, but what if Conforto doesn't figure things out, right? And then I understand that Kim is playing the outfield right now because they want to give Tommy Edman a break, but it is clear to me that Kim is not comfortable playing the outfield. To have what happened on that game against the Serpientes happen. So, and these are, again, Kim is a rookie. I know he has
Mhm.
experience with the KBO, but what
People are
happens?
forgetting that too.
It's like, what happens if he starts getting into a slump? What happens when Major League Baseball makes the adjustment to him and they figure him out, and you don't have you you're running out of options because look, I know you have James Outman out there, but James Outman does not seem to be, at least on the Dodgers, a major leaguer. And by the way, shouts out to American League Player of the Week, Miguel Vargas, everybody. If you guys remember when you guys all clowned me, Miguel Vargas, and couldn't wait to have him out of here and send him to the White Sox, he actually played really, really well and got a Player of the Week. So hopefully things turn around for him out there. That's my concern in terms of depth, Amie, and that's the thing, right? In Major League Baseball, you're focused on what's going on right now, but at the same time, you do kind of have to look forward. And I know this is when we'll start getting comments with like, well, Jose de Paula, Juan, Jose de Paula is doing
We
great.
already got that in our comments corner. We got that to call him up. We also got
Yeah.
a La Bamba shout out for Austin Barnes and
Richie. um,
Sleepwalker by Johnny and Santo, I think.
Look, that's the song that plays at the end of the.
I see his mother with the wash, and she's like, "No, not my Richie."
Exactly. There's two ways of looking at this.
You do have ways to move it around, though. You've got Kike. You can move him. You can slot him into second or center. You move Teoscar back to left, where he's, that felt like he was really good there. You can move Pages over to right. You have ways to slot them over, and then you can interchange. Hae-Sung Kim, Tommy Edman, and then if you need to, you can bring up James Outman. Maybe he figures it out. You have options there, I think, so it's not as dire as like not having it. But I mean, it would involve some just switching around with some stuff. But we've seen Andy Pages move over to right field quite a few times when they're bringing other people in.
Yeah, it just seems right now everything that can go wrong is going wrong for them, and I'm
better to get it out of the way now.
And that is, of course, I think that's the one luxury that you have right now is that you can look back and say to yourself, "It's May, and they're still in first place." How they are in first place after this weekend, I don't. Again, thank you, Marineros, man. Shout out to the Seattle Marineros for helping us out, but. It's middle of May, and you just have to hope it can't get any worse, right? With the injuries, or can it?
I mean, I don't watch baseball that way. I'm just like, all right, game at a time. Somebody, I think at the stadium yesterday, like people were very upset at the game, and it was just like, I'm happy to be in the stadium. Like, hey, look, Shohei hit a home run. Like it was just nice to be there. Was it the best game in the world? No, but we celebrated Vin. We got to see his granddaughter throw out the first pitch. Philip ended up calling Shohei's homer before he hit it. Like, I don't know. They're just like, but
way to go out on a limb there, Philip, calling Shohei to hit a home run. Wow,
why you gotta diminish what he's doing? He called it. Let him have it.
That's really putting yourself.
Let
out
him
there.
have it.
Absolutely.
But like I don't know what I told somebody in the stadium last night. A random person, like, we get a new game tomorrow. We'll start fresh tomorrow. Like, that's all we can do.
That's right. Anything else that you want to discuss about this past series or this past week?
I mean, we were kind of all over the place, but here we are.
All right, let's switch gears because there was some big news that dropped last week that we didn't get a chance to talk about it because it happened after we recorded our last episode. But that is what, Amie, about a certain player getting reinstated?
Yes, Manfredi, our bestie on the show, part of my not Fight Club.
Why aren't you positive about Manfred?
Because he's proven not to be worthy of positivity. piece of metal winners, was it?
That's right. That's what he said.
Yeah. So he had, because Pete Rose's family has decided to kind of lobby to get him at least eligible for the Hall of Fame voting. 17 individuals who passed away who were on the permanent ineligible list. Manfred decided that the purpose of Rule 21 had been observed, and once an individual passed away, they could now be considered, which factors in for Pete Rose. So what he had said was, obviously a person no longer with us cannot represent a threat to the integrity of a game. It's hard to conceive of a penalty that has more of a deterrent effect than one that lasts a lifetime with no reprieve. So the Hall of Fame still has to vote on this. It's not like he's automatically in. It'll most likely go to the Veterans Committee, but I don't know. How did you feel about this? Because you sent me the article, because I think I was working when it came out, and then I saw it and I was like, oh.
Just to clarify, it doesn't go to the Veterans Committee. It's going to go to the Historical Committee.
Typically referred to as the Veterans Committee.
Is that what it is? Are they the same thing? I thought they were different.
That's what I was reading. So like the
I stand corrected. 1,000
no,
pardons.
you don't have to be
pardons.
corrected. We're both right.
Okay, so here's my thing. I don't think this is a given. I think everyone, when the news broke, I think everyone was acting like, oh, well, that's it. Pete Rose is going into the Hall of Fame.
I think that's people who don't understand the process. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I'm assuming too much.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I'm not convinced, because you need 12 out of 16 votes from that Historical Committee, the Veterans Committee. So okay. So this is.
But your thoughts, like, do you think, like, if you were given a vote?
Well, here's my thoughts, and because I do want to go into this Historical Committee thing. My thoughts is this: is Pete Rose is already in the Hall of Fame. He is. The Hall of Fame is a museum. Okay. Mm-hmm. He holds the record for most hits in Major League Baseball. He is already in the Hall of Fame. If you go to the Hall of Fame, you'll be able to see that. Now, what he doesn't have is his bust there as a player. This to me is not a make or break. Okay. Like, I think you very easily could rectify this by doing, okay, give him his bust, but on there you put that he bet on baseball. Okay. Now, I know a lot of people will have issues with that, but to me, again, he's already in the Hall of Fame the same way that Barry Bonds is in the Hall of Fame. Like, people know,
just in a different way.
Yeah, it's in a different way. I know that there are major leaguers, and like Przinsky on Foul Territory came out and said, well, what's the point of doing this if you're going to ban somebody and then the minute they die? I thought it was very interesting what Przinsky said. Did you hear that?
I haven't seen his, but that was going to be my point. For me, he is on the permanently ineligible list. That's permanent. It doesn't say like, oh, well, if you're alive or if you're dead, you are permanently banned. So to me, why are we rewarding somebody posthumously for this? And that's not to say anybody who's dead, we shouldn't go back and revisit why there's merit to something, because I think things like the Negro Leagues, there is merit to adding that to like statistical records and things like that. He bet on baseball. That was not allowed. After 15 years, he finally admitted it when he put it in his book. But why are we rewarding somebody, even if they have passed on a permanently ineligible list? You're just retracting what it was. Like, it's in the nature of the name.
And that's kind of what Przinsky's point was.
Oh.
But what I found really interesting, what Przinsky said is, and I don't know if this is true. I don't know if I agree with him with it, what he said this, but he said it's more important to the family than to the player to get into the Hall of Fame. I don't know.
And it's been the family. It's been his daughter who's been lobbying for this for years.
I think there's a lot of players that it means a lot to them to get into the Hall of Fame. So
I would agree.
I don't know if I buy that it's more important to the family than it is to the player.
It could be important in a different way.
Now, your boy Manfred, the reason why he
is not my boy.
The reason why he did this is he said, well, these people can no longer do harm to the game. And I'm like, well, that's an interesting way of looking at it. They can no longer do harm to the game, but they already did do harm to the game. So I think this is where your argument comes in, Amie, where it's just like, we can't undo the harm he's already done because he said he never bet on the Reds. The problem is the whole point of sports is competition, the integrity of a competition. So if you have someone on the other team who has access to information that not everybody has and clearly is giving an advantage, I know the example that was given all the time was if someone bet a game and it was, let's say, the over under was 8 runs and there's a runner on third, and the catcher maybe has put money on the game, decides to, I'm going to let this ball get past me, and that runner from third scores, and it's an 8-1 ball game,
Now
right?
you're in Black Sox territory at that point. Like,
Exactly. So
and
again,
Pete, not Pete Rose, Chris Rose came out and was talking about that. And he was saying, the record and everything aside, like the fact that there's a code of conduct and his behavior violated that, like that's yet another reason, like not to consider him for something like this.
and that's what Perzinski said. Every player is forced to sign Rule 21. You know, and then they're forced to sign it. So again, to me, he's already in the Hall of Fame, but I also see your point of view, Amie, in the sense of the individual recognition. There was never any contrition on his part, and the damage has already been done. So you are kind of rewarding someone after. So I totally see that.
And
That
words matter. If you say permanent ban and then you retract it, just like he tried to walk back the, oh, I didn't really mean piece of metal winners, but that's what you called it. You called the epitome of this sport. You like dumbed it down to like, oh, it's just a piece of metal. It's not just a piece of metal. It represents so much more than that, beyond just being a championship trophy. It represents the hard work that goes into a season, the luck, the preparation, the skill, and it's a piece of metal. Like, tell me you don't care about the sport really without telling me. And to say that, like, well, it is the permanently ineligible list, but you know what, he's dead, what harm can it do? But it can. Words matter, actions matter. And to me, this is like, it just toss this on the pile of disappointment.
I strongly encourage you guys to read that article on the in the Athletic on this whole Pete Rose uh, decision. I know they're calling it the Pete Rose decision, but it is more than just Pete
It
Rose.
also impacts Shoeless Joe Jackson. They said 17 individuals in general who were on that list, but that it's typically going to be like people are referring to Pete Rose and Shoeless Joe Jackson. There's a Saber Talk tomorrow. I think you can register for it. They're going to be having a talk at, let's see, it's 7 p.m. Eastern, so 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, where they're going to be debating this. So, I mean, it's a hot topic right now, even still a week later after they announced it, because while it's not going to really change anything in anybody's life, it's still something that people are passionate about.
Yeah, I strongly encourage you guys check out that article in the Athletic because so in regards to the historical overview committee. So this is what I was trying to say. So here's the clarification. Those players that Amie was referring to, those that are reinstated, they're going to be considered by the Historical Overview Committee, which would decide if any of them warrant a hearing. And so, if they do warrant a hearing, then the Eras Committee will vote on the election to the Hall of Fame. So, Pete Rose would need 12 of 16 votes in order to get elected into the Hall of Fame.
My
Uh,
women's committee chair in Saber, she's actually one of the people on that. She's
oh,
one of the
look at
votes.
that.
Dr. Leslie Heafy.
So if Pete Rose gets 12 of 16, the earliest he could get inducted into the Hall of Fame would be 2027. I don't know did you see what happened in Cincinnati last week?
Tell me.
They had Pete Rose night, and remember what the Paul Skeens bobblehead looked like in Pittsburgh? That's what it looked like in Cincinnati. So clearly, there is a lot of love and support for Pete Rose. My thing is when it goes to either the Historical Overview Committee or the Eras Committee, how many veterans that are adamant that they don't want him in the Hall of Fame? I'm curious as to how many of them are going to reach out to people in those committees and say,
Mm-hmm.
you better not vote for him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is where I saw it in that article. It said it'll be subject to the voting process of the ERA Committee, formerly and more colloquially known as the Veterans Committee.
Okay.
So
Thank you for that clarification. One last thing on this, Amie, because it's about your best friend Manfred. I don't think
Don't
Manfred.
call him that.
I don't think he needed to do this.
He did
So,
not at
so
all.
I am very curious as to why he decided to do this. And that athletic article, do you remember this? That athletic
Which
article,
one? There have been so many on him and his myriad of
the
changes.
one that I sent you, I found this portion of the article very interesting in the sense that they found the timing of this decision to be very, very curious. Because Manfred has rejected the petition to reinstate Pete Rose before this decision. So now, what is really
It almost feels like he's like, I didn't say he could get in. I didn't give him permission, but if you guys do it, like, way to pass the buck.
He's rejected this before, so it's like,
Mhm.
okay, well, what has changed now
Dead.
for you to go ahead? All right, he's dead. But what the athletic article mentioned is maybe this is another reason why he may have changed his mind. Manfred seemingly changed course after meeting with President Trump, who loudly argued in social media posts that Rose should be reinstated. Ken Rosenthal wondered what sort of precedent the reinstatement, especially if politically motivated, would set. I know a lot of corporations, a lot of businesses are really worried about that kind of stuff and they're kissing the ring, so to speak. Major League Baseball has their antitrust rule, right? They don't pay taxes. I really hope, and there's no way of proving this, but I know remember the steroid hearings, how many times they threw that out there and said, we can take this away from you if you guys don't go in here and clean this up. We can take away that exemption for you. I really hope that that's not what was said to Manfred.
And
If
whether
you
it
don't put
was
Pete
or it
Rose in the
wasn't,
Hall of Fame,
yeah.
we're going to do this.
Yeah.
He doesn't do himself any favors, man. He really could have left this alone because he'd already said no.
But if you're saying that that's a possibility, I mean, you definitely have modus going with the Latin modus operandi. You definitely have like motive.
Well, yeah, but again, it seems like because he's not going to seek a new term. And speaking about Manfred,
but
right?
that's the thing. It's like he doesn't like whatever he does on the way out. It's going to potentially hurt baseball. It's not going to impact him. He's
But I
like,
don't think he views it as it's hurting baseball. I do think he's thinking of his legacy here. And I do, and I guess I'm reading maybe too much into line. This is too much speculation. There's a part of me that feels he knows he messed up with the Astros thing, and he's
how is this
trying.
making it better?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I feel like he so desperately wants to leave a legacy that is something other than the Astros. But to me, Amy, his legacy is going to always be the Astros. It's going to begin and end with the Astros.
The fact that you did not take that pennant away, fine, you gave them immunity, whatever. That's still to me like I don't. We've talked about this before. I don't fall on the side of like you should just award it to the Dodgers because
No,
the
neither
Dodgers
do I.
didn't earn it because they didn't get to. We never will know. That got taken away from not only the Dodgers but players across baseball who that impacted their careers. They didn't get signed or whatever because of the outcome of those choices of those players. Many of them who did not appear sorry at all. Fine, you gave them immunity. You let them continue to play in the league. Why did you let them keep their piece of metal? Because if it's, if that's all it is, why would you let them keep it? They didn't earn it. They cheated.
Yeah, there should have been no winner that year. And it's not just what they did to the Dodgers. It's what they did to the Yankees too.
But it's not just the Yankee. There were people across teams, their contracts didn't get, they didn't get like maybe didn't get their option picked up because they didn't meet their goals because, for whatever reason. It's only a couple games that they might have played, but this was back when certain teams played a lot more frequently. This isn't when we had a balanced schedule. We used to play the Giants, the Diamondbacks, Colorado, like we would play them multiple times in a season. And if you're facing the Astros and your career is based on the numbers that you're putting up and that's impacting your game, that's going to impact the contract of anybody who had that, on a frequent basis. So.
Watch this space, ladies and gentlemen. I am very curious to see when this does go to the historical overview committee and if they do warrant a hearing for the eras committee. I'd love to hear some of the comments that are going to come out of that, whether the decision is made in favor or against Pete Rose.
Well, I'm going to try to catch that the Saber Talk tomorrow, because it looks like it's going to be pretty good. So it's if anybody wants to Google it, it's Pete Rose, Shoeless Joe in the Hall. So it will be at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. It's a Zoom call, so you can just register for it.
If you do join it, would you be able to give us a report on that?
Assuming I can get off work in time and join it, potentially yes. So otherwise, what I would say is, like, everybody kind of go sign up for it, check it out. Sometimes they'll even post a replay of it.
Check it out.
Check it out. All
right, Amie. Anything else?
Oh, yeah. We'll end on a palate cleanser. So there was an account on Threads, Otani Canada, and they were showing Shohei mentoring Hae-Sung Kim on how to throw seeds. After somebody either, came in from a run or hit an extra base hit, you'd see him kind of walk over, put the seeds in Hae-Sung's hand, and then have him throw them. And obviously, Kim needs a little bit more work because he just kind of half-heartedly threw it. He needed to have a little more of that Teoscar conviction. So I think if Shohei keeps mentoring him, it'll be okay.
I'm waiting for someone to get a seed in the eye. I just feel like it's
gonna
happen.
Will you see them close their eyes? I think Freddie Freeman, I saw they did a slow-mo. 2 went in his mouth, and then you saw him lick them in, and I was like, okay, hey, pro move. All right, you got 2 seeds. Good for you.
I'm waiting for that. Man! That's literally what I'm waiting for it to happen.
And the force with which they throw
it. Exactly. I feel like they really chuck it at them. So.
Jeez. So.
Okay, well, that's going to do it for this episode. If you've been listening to us on the audio portion, please make sure you're subscribed to the podcast. Rate us, write us a review, help spread the word. If you have been watching us on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. Hit that notification button. Give us a thumbs up. Leave us comments. We love engaging with you. And most importantly, make sure you're following us on social media, on X at BB Shangri-La, on Instagram, YouTube, and Bluesky at Baseball Shangri-La. She is Amie Cuevas. I'm Juan Ramirez. Nos despedimos con un beso. Amie, say goodbye to the people.
Goodbye, people.